Echoes of Hunger. The story begins in a land where history carved itself into stone, where whispers from the past linger in the chill of the mountains. Deep within the rugged highlands of Scotland lies a place known not for beauty, but for horror, a cave sealed in legend, wrapped in fear, and steeped in the darkest tales of humanity. This was no ordinary cave. To those who dared approach, it seemed alive, like an open mouth in the cliffside, waiting to swallow the unfortunate. But behind that gaping maw of rock lived a nightmare that haunted generations, a clan of cannibals, led by the savage and merciless figure known as Alexander Sawney Bean. It is said that in the late 16th century, Sawney, accompanied by his equally ruthless wife, abandoned the ways of civilization and disappeared into the shadows of the earth. From that moment, their story would forever blur the line between folklore and horrifying reality. Inside this cavernous lair, hidden from the watchful eyes of villagers, the Bean family built their dreadful kingdom. Sawney and his wife produced children, and their children bore more children, until the family multiplied into a clan of dozens. But they were no ordinary family. Devoid of morality, untouched by light, they embraced a new existence, one fueled by blood. Travelers who strayed near their domain vanished without a trace. The Beans ambushed them, dragging their screaming victims into the darkness of the cave. What awaited inside was more terrifying than death itself. Victims were butchered like animals, their flesh preserved, their bones discarded into the sea. The cave reeked with the stench of decay. By torchlight, the grotesque family feasted, their teeth gnashing through the raw sinew of their prey. This was not survival, it was pleasure, indulgence in the most primal, horrifying appetite known to man. For 25 years, the highlands trembled beneath their reign. Locals whispered of disappearances, of roads cursed with sudden silence. Families never returned home. Entire groups of travelers simply ceased to exist. Yet the Beans thrived, their grotesque way of life sustained by secrecy and the protection of their cavern. Their hunger only grew, and with it, their arrogance. They left behind remains, severed hands, gnawed bones, and mutilated corpses that washed ashore. Fear spread like wildfire, and the land was gripped in terror. The king himself became aware, disturbed by tales so grotesque that even the bravest knights faltered at the thought of confronting them. Still, the Beans remained hidden, predators in the shadows of stone, feeding, breeding, and waiting for their next victim. Their cave was their fortress, a living tomb where humanity was devoured and where the echoes of hunger never ceased. Shadows of flesh. As the years stretched on, the cave became more than a hiding place. It became a kingdom of shadows. Inside its damp walls, the family lived without shame or fear of retribution. In the flicker of firelight, Sawney Bean's children grew into killers, trained from birth to stalk the helpless and consume the fallen. They knew no farming, no trade, no prayers, no songs, only the ritual of the hunt, the butcher's work, and the unholy feast. In the dripping darkness, they carved their meals, blood staining their hands and faces, laughter echoing against wet stone as they tore into the remains of innocence. Bones piled in grotesque heaps, stacked high in corners like trophies of their vile existence. To outsiders, it was unimaginable. To the Beans, it was life. But their secret world could not remain untouched forever. One night, their hunger betrayed them. They attacked a traveling couple, ambushing them on the lonely road. The man fought back fiercely, armed with sword and courage, and though his wife fell to the clan's claws, he escaped their grasp. Wounded and shaken, he fled to the nearest town, his story spilling forth with terror and disbelief. The villagers listened, their faces pale as wax. At last, there was proof, a survivor who had seen the monsters with his own eyes. News spread like fire through the kingdom, and soon it reached the ears of King James VI himself. The king would not allow such evil to flourish in his land. He gathered an army of 400 men, accompanied by bloodhounds trained to sniff the trail of the guilty. Together, they set out for the highlands, the shadows of flesh finally hunted by the light. The search was brutal, the terrain unforgiving, but the bloodhounds caught the scent, rotting human flesh carried on the cold wind. They followed it to the cliffs, to the yawning cave, where darkness whispered of horrors untold. As the soldiers entered, torches illuminating the depths, their eyes widened in revulsion. Before them lay the truth, more grotesque than rumor had suggested. The cavern was littered with mutilated bodies, dismembered limbs strung like drying meats, organs stored in jars of brine, and bones gnawed down to splinters. The stench was unbearable, the sight unforgettable. The soldiers gagged, some vomiting, others crossing themselves in prayer. In the heart of the cavern, they found the clan, men, women, and children, caught in the act of their grim feast. Sawney Bean himself glared at them, unrepentant, his eyes burning with feral hatred. At last, the shadows of flesh had been dragged into the light of justice. Bloodlines of Terror. Captured, the clan of cannibals was dragged from their lair into the daylight they had forsaken for decades. Chained and filthy, they snarled and spat like animals, their humanity long since rotted away. The king decreed no trial was needed. Their crimes were too great, their guilt too obvious. Justice would be swift, brutal, and final. The men were executed in a manner befitting their crimes, their hands and feet severed, their limbs torn apart, their lives ended in agonizing screams. The women and children were burned alive, their shrieks echoing across the land as fire consumed them. No mercy was granted, no prayers offered. The kingdom rejoiced, yet the horror lingered. The ground itself seemed poisoned by their memory, the cave forever marked as a place of fear. Even now, locals whisper that the screams of the beans can still be heard, carried on the wind that sweeps the cliffs. But legends have a way of surviving, even when bodies turn to ash. Some say the tale of Sawney Bean was exaggerated, a fable meant to terrify travelers and remind them of the dangers of the wild. Others insist it was all true, that the bones unearthed in the caves and the vanishings in the highlands were undeniable proof. Whether fact or folklore, the story remains a chilling reminder of how thin the line is between man and monster. In the shadows of hunger and desperation, humanity can vanish, replaced by something primal, something feral, something terrifying. The cave of cannibals still exists, a scar in the highlands, and those who dare to wander too close claim that at night they can hear the crack of bones, the gnash of teeth, and the echo of laughter from a family long since burned, but never forgotten. The bloodlines of terror do not vanish, they linger, eternal, a warning carved into the stones of Scotland.